Hi guys, the Right Honourable gentleman from the 19th century, Jacob Rees-Mogg, spoke to former DUP leader and now GB News commentator Arlene Foster about religion. Now, may come as a surprise to you, but Mogg is a Catholic, but how he squares his politics with his faith is beyond me. But we'll get to that later. In this clip with the DUPer, he gave examples of politicians who, in his opinion, suffered as a result of their faith, but also parties who have gone against religious teachings, namely Sinn Féin, over the issue of being pro-choice. Have a listen to this.
Talked about how faith has worked through the Parliament when you've been in it. But how do you see the future? I mean, we see people of faith in Parliament. There are some who have suffered because of their faith. Sinn Féin, for example, had to step down as Liberal Democrat leader because he felt the two conflicted. We watched how Kate Forbes was treated in Scotland in terms of her faith when she went forward for the position of First Minister of Scotland. Do you think that in the future people of faith will be put off being involved in politics, or do you think there's a space for politics and religion to coexist?
I think it's very important that there is a space. I think as a Conservative it is much easier than it is if you're in the Labour Party, the Lib Dems or the SNP. And obviously if you're with the DUP, it's part of your party. That's extraordinary how Sinn Féin has lost its faith.
Correct.
And has completely abandoned any understanding, as far as I can tell, of Catholic teaching, and certainly is strongly pro-abortion nowadays, which I think is very sad and damaging.
Okay, first of all, Sinn Féin are not pro-abortion, they are pro-choice. Jacob obviously knows the difference, but he wants people to believe that if you believe that women should be allowed to choose, you are pro-abortion. Jacob is anti-woman. Jacob wants the government to decide whether women have a choice over their own bodies or not. Sinn Féin, maybe they have changed over the last number of decades, but they believe now that women should choose whether to continue a pregnancy or not the state, and not people like Jacob Rees-Mogg. Now, it's also funny that he attacks Sinn Féin on Catholicism, because Jacob Rees-Mogg, as I said at the beginning, is a Catholic, or claims to be one, identifies as one. But it's very difficult how he squares his politics with that, because I was under the impression that Catholicism believes in charity, making sure that people don't go hungry. Jacob Rees-Mogg has voted against policies that would provide free school meals to children. The Catholic Church believes in providing housing to people, accommodation. Jacob Rees-Mogg has voted against policies that would increase the chances of poor people having access to housing. So whenever it comes to something that the Catholic Church, I believe, supports, Jacob Rees-Mogg voted against those things. So is Jacob Rees-Mogg a Catholic outside Parliament and, I don't know, an anti-Catholic in Parliament? Which is it? Because whenever it's a policy that would actually help people, that most Catholics would support, Jacob Rees-Mogg has been on the other side.
But I admire Sinn Féin and Kate Forbes in left-wing parties standing up for their faith and finding that that's very difficult. I think
Kate Forbes is a bigot. That is why she ran into so much resistance. It's not because of her religion. It's because she wasn't able to separate her religion from her politics. She wasn't able to say, I will represent people also who don't agree with me. Because when she was challenged on her religion, on her religious faith, she resorted to saying, well, she tried to dodge the question, but she eventually resorted to saying stuff like, well, I would put my faith before my politics. But you're a public representative. You're supposed to put your religion aside and represent everyone. But she wasn't able to say that. So that's why she failed, I believe. Because she wasn't able to say, well, look, these are my religious teachings. I can put them aside because I'm going to represent everyone. What I believe personally will remain personal. Politicians can be religious people, but it's important that they represent everyone, that they're able to put their religion aside and represent their constituents. It seems that Kate Forbes was incapable of doing that.
The left-wing parties have made a mistake in this. There's a great line of Harold Wilson about the Labour Party owing more to Methodism than Marxism.
Correct.
And that used to be one of the Labour Party's great strengths. And the Labour Party, particularly in Scotland, in Western Scotland, had a lot of support from the Catholic Church. And that link has dissipated because faith has been almost deliberately pushed out. And the Alistair Campbell quotation you used at the beginning is very important. In the Conservative Party, faith is still seen as a normal part of a Conservative politician's private life.
And of course, the Prime Minister now is a practicing Hindu and makes no secret of that. Indeed, when he was in India earlier on.
Why would he make a secret of that? Like, why is it when it's a Catholic politician or a Protestant politician, there's no issue about them practicing their faith, but when it comes to Rishi Sunak being a Hindu, he somehow needs to hide it?
On this year, he was able to pray in public, and that's something presumably you welcome.
Oh, hugely. I think faith is very important. I think, particularly for politicians, an understanding that there is something very much more important than them is thoroughly beneficial.
Yeah.
What is Jacob Rees-Mogg's religion? Because it isn't Catholicism. I believe it's money. Because he seems to be more interested in protecting his money than protecting his faith. And making sure that people who, once again, the Catholic Church is supposed to stand up for, are protected. But he has constantly voted against policies that would help people. How is he a Catholic? Is it just the ceremonies that he likes? The costumes? The rituals? The Latin? Is that what he's in for? Because it certainly isn't the teachings. What would Jesus think of Jacob Rees-Mogg? Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, the comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.